start bringing that down a little bit, maybe down to 20%. Now we got a nice little blend there. Let's turn the layer off, and we have our original gray. Turn the layer on, and we've got a nice little green that goes with this pink. All right, welcome to the channel today. Going to show you today. All right, I got a lot of junk today in the room. I even got junk behind me. I'm just junk everywhere. I've been very busy. I got nowhere else to put the junk except right underneath me and a little bit behind me. The rest of it is just off camera piled up to the ceiling. Is all the junk. So anyway, let's try to get through this without too much junk. So I'll show you how to change the background color, in this case of a canvas backdrop. I'm going to give it a little bit of pizzazz. I like the way it looks now. It looks pretty good. It's just a gray canvas backdrop from Clot Backdrops with the lovely model Katil from San Antonio, Texas. So styled by me, actually, and she came. Let's see, I brought the pearls, actually, the bodysuit and the fur coat. She brought the rest of the jewelry. She did her own makeup, hair and makeup by herself. She brought the shoes, the anklets and all that, and the bracelets. So it was a team effort for sure, putting this style together. So a couple ways you can change the backdrop, an image in Photoshop. The first way, and I'm going to come over here, I'm going to first I'm going to isolate her from the background. So first thing we want to do, let's just do a new layer, right? Control J. So we're not working on the background layer. If we screw it up, I can always delete this upper layer here, and we're back to our pristine background layer that's not touched, and we can start over if we have to. Hopefully we won't have to do that. So I'm just going to use the select subject, which is this button up here. If you don't see it, make sure you have one of these selection contextual tools here. In this case, I've got the quick selection tool, and I just long clicked on this right here. Got the quick selection. You might have object or magic wand showing there. If you don't see the right tools, you can always go to workspace, and I'm using the photography workspace. Okay, it's under window, workspace, photography. That should give you the tools, most of them that you're going to need, right? So with the select subject, it does a really good job of selecting her. I mean, if you come in, it does a real good job. Doesn't quite get the hair as well as I would want it. So a little selection tutorial here. Let's hit the select and mask. So really what we want to do here is use this refine hair tool right here. We hit refine hair, and we'll come in here, and that gives us a little tool here, and we want to just come in here, and we want to just go right here where the hair is. That's going to make sure that we get a really good selection of the hair, because I don't want to mess that up. So it's going to think about it, and we'll hit OK, and we should have a pretty good selection of the hair, and it created this mask for us right here. Okay, it actually duplicated the layer, created a mask for me, which is pretty cool. Right now, I've got her selected and not the background. How do I know that? Because the parts in white in this mask over here, those are the parts that are part of the selection, and the black is what is not selected, right? So if I wanted to invert that, because I want to work on the background, not her, I can come over to this. Make sure you select the mask, not the actual photo, but the mask, and on your keyboard hit Control I, which stands for invert, and look at that. Now the background is selected because it's in white, and anything we do, whatever's in black will be ignored, and that is, in this case, her. How do I know that? Well, I could right click on this mask, and I could choose add mask to selection, and look at that. I'll zoom out, and you can see that now I have the marching ants, and I can see what my selection is. In this case, it's the background and not her, right? So just a little trick there. I'm going to, and that's the whole reason I want to do that, was just to create a mask, because really there's a couple ways we can do this now. We can use, let's start with just a color layer Where's the color layer? Solid color, okay? We're going to do that. And I don't really want, I could use a blue, but in this case I was thinking more of a green would really kind of pop off that pink. And I'm going to choose this green. Wait for it. You're like, what's he doing? It's a pretty, that's pretty minty, isn't it? So I have this color fill layer over my photo, right? So you can't see my photo. So trick here, make sure you have the color fill layer chosen. Come up here where it says normal. This is the blend modes. And let's change this to overlay, or we could do soft light. They're pretty close, but I like overlay better. Okay. And now, so she's green. We can see the picture a little bit, but she's green. The background's green. Everything's green. I don't want her green. Well, I created this mask down here, right? What do you think is going to happen when I copy that mask up to this color fill layer, right? It's going to, and I'll hold down Control Option or Control Alt and click and drag that mask up and replace the mask, and look what it did. Remember what I said, the parts in black are now ignored, so it's masking anything in black. It's masking her out because she's part of the mask, and the black mask. Anything that's in white, it's not going to mask. So my color layer, I can see it on the background now. So hopefully that's clear how masking works, okay? It's not as minty as it was, but it's still pretty darn minty. Now, your selection is very important here. Let's zoom in. I'm just hitting Control Plus to zoom in. Look how good that selection was with the hair when I went in and refined the hair. I mean, it's just really good. So Control 0 will recenter the canvas. So I've got this layer here. Make sure color fill is selected. Let's bring the opacity of the layer down. That's the intensity of the layer that's going to show up. Let's start bringing that down a little bit. Maybe down to 20%. Now we got a nice little blend there. Let's turn the layer off. And we have our original gray. Turn the layer on, and we've got a nice little green that goes with this pink. I think I want this pink to pop a little bit more. So what could I do? Well, I could create a hue saturation layer. So you come down here to this little semicircle and you choose hue saturation. And I'm going to choose the color picker, which is this right here, this little finger that's pointing up, right? And I'm going to pick this pink right there and see it chooses magentas, right? So I'm only going to be impacting the magentas, and that is these colors inside this boundary here that it's created. I don't know if you can see that there. So within this boundary are the colors that it's impacting. Okay, so I'm going to pump up the saturation of the magentas, and you can see now we got some really good magentas going there. Now I don't know if it really doesn't look like it got into the skin. That's what I was concerned about. Let's turn that layer off. And I don't see any impact on the skin. Maybe just a little bit. It's very slight. So if we wanted to mask out, say, her face and her skin, I don't think I'm seeing a little bit of it like right in here and a little bit right in here, but it's not bad at all. But I can go to the mask again, not the hue saturation piece, but click on the mask, and I can paint with what do you think is going to mask out this effect? Black, right? Because we did it down here. Anything in black is ignored, right? So if this effect is impacting the whole image and I have a mask that's white, that means nothing is masked out. I can come over here to my color picker here and choose this little left and down kind of curvy arrow thing here. Change, it toggles between white and black. So toggle it to black. Take my paintbrush, right? And right now my flow is at 20%. Let's make it, I don't know, well, we can just make it 100, right? And come in here, zoom in, Control Plus is your zoom. Left bracket makes this thing a little bit smaller. Right bracket makes it larger. That's the brackets next to the P key. And we're going to paint. Make sure you have, again, the mask selected, not the hue saturation properties, the mask right here. And we'll paint with black on her face and skin at 100% just to make sure that, we're not impacting her skin, right? And I don't even see it on the skin, just for the sake of argument. we'll leave it alone. I don't think her skin is impacted, but I did slightly see it on the face. That's why I wanted it there. You can see the little black there where I painted on her face, right? So the magenta effect that I jacked up the saturation on, it's not going to impact her face, but it is impacting the magentas in the coat, and it looks pretty good. So let me turn that layer off, and you see it's a little anemic, the color, and now we've got some really nice magentas in the pink, and that looks really good, I think. How else could we, I mean, I'm done, right? I mean, this looks really good to me. How else, though, could I change the color of the background? Well, we've already got this selection, this mask, right? So we're going to keep using that thing. I'm going to group. I'm going to hit the top layer, hold down Shift, hit the next layer, hit Control G. That groups them together, tucks them into a folder together, right? And now I can turn off the folder, and it turns off both of those layers inside the folder. See the eyeballs? If I turn the group back on, the eyeballs come back, and I can see the effect, right? So I just want to hide this group. Why am I trying to hide the group? Because I want to show you another way to do this. So we're just going to turn those layers off. I've still got my mask that I created there. We're going to reuse that. So let's come up here. Make sure the group is selected because we're going to create a layer above the group, right? And I'm going to create, we're going to come down here to this little semicircle, and we're going to click on curves. Okay, so here's curves right here. That's going to create a curves layer. Now I want to reuse this mask because what was this mask doing? It's only anything that I'm doing with the effects that I'm using are only going to impact the background with this mask because she's masked out, right? So we've established that. So I'm going to do the control, hold down on my keyboard, Control Option or Control Alt, and click and drag this up here while I'm holding those two keys down, and that will replace the mask. What do you think that's going to do again? Anything I do on this layer is only going to impact the parts in white on the mask, and that's the background. So with curves, click on the little curves right here, and that brings up the curves property, not the mask, curves. Now I'm going to change this RGB because RGB is going to be all the values, right? I can crank it up and it brightens it, and I can bring it down and it darkens it, right? We don't want to do any of that, right? So we'll reset that. I want to add some colors to it. So if you click on this RGB, you get red, green, and blue, right? So let's pick green. What do you think is going to happen when I move this curve up? We start getting green on the background. Isn't that cool? And it looks almost like the other one. That was so easy, right? Let's turn that one off, and we'll pay attention to the green now in the background, right? It's that color green. So we'll turn the other group on that I did earlier. It's almost identical, right? So pretty close, and that was just so easy, right? That's another way to just change the background. And then we could always come down here to this group and just turn on the hue saturation right there. We don't want this minty green. So now we have the curves along with the pink saturation that I added earlier just because I've activated that hue saturation layer, this one, and this new curves layer, and this minty color fill layer earlier. We're not even using that. So you can see I could use either color fill to change the background to green, or I can use curves to change the background to green. Isn't that cool? So there's probably, you could maybe use selective color. I don't think selective color is going to work. It's going to work with whatever colors are already in the background, which with gray there really wasn't, or different shades of gray. So but that is pretty much the gist of it. Now I clipped the blend layer on this one to normal. Remember, we'll turn the curves layer off, and we'll go back down to this color fill one that we did earlier. If you remember, I changed the blend mode to overlay, right? Because when it was in normal, it looked like that. Overlay went like that, and I brought the opacity down to 20%, right? So with this one, I didn't really have to do any of that. It was easier to just do that, right? Now I could play around with that curve some more. Again, this color fill is turned off, and I just got the hue saturation for the pink effect. Come up to the curve, select that layer again. I can, remember we had the different colors. I'm just choosing RGB, and I can impact the lightness and darkness of the background. If I want to make it a little darker, I can, a little moodier back there. I can bring down the curve of the RGB layer, right? If I wanted to use a different color, maybe I don't want green, maybe I want more blue. I can add some blue in there and change the tone a little bit. So maybe I want it more, a little bit bluish. I can go really blue if I want to, which doesn't look all that great, but there's more of a bluish background. Maybe I want more magenta tones and I want to do something like that. I could even do that if I wanted to. So the options are endless, with the curves, and you can turn the curves off, come back to the color fill. I mean, really, you double click on that color and, you can change, your colors here too. And maybe I change it to more of like a pink back there. Change it to pink. So now it's pink, and I'm going to bring the opacity up. See that? All the way to 100, that's really not working, but you get the idea. The options, it's whatever color you want to use, so you can play around with those different colors. Okay, guys? Hey, give it a like, give it a subscribe. That helps the algorithm, helps the video to get seen. I appreciate you guys watching. If you're still hanging in there, let me get this thing back to something really pretty. Which actually wasn't there. So I don't know, I kind of screwed it up now, but it did look good to start off with. We're stuck with pink now, but I can go back and change the color. So you guys have a good one. Again, appreciate you watching. Bye.